This tutorial is the second tutorial in the files series. In the previous tutorial, we worked a little bit with reading and writing from file. Okay, on this tutorial, we're going to refine a few of the things that we already know how to do. So, first thing I'm going to do is, I seem to be missing a toolbox. Let me go ahead and get this. And I want to put a button on here. And the next thing I want to do is I want to scroll down. Let's label this button right here. Save file. So I'll go to the text property and I'll say save file. I'm going to put this down here for now, and I'm going to go grab a text box and I'll put it on my form. I'll make it this big. It got resized because the auto size property is on, so I'm going to go to the text box. I'm going to say auto size. Actually, it's not going to let me select that. I think it's multi-line I have to select. Go down to multi-line. There it is. I'm going to set multi-line equal to true, and now I can make it as tall and as wide as I want. So you can actually make it look like this. If I wanted to, if I put a menu at the top, could you imagine that if I ran Notepad, I could make it look just like that, no problem? If I just had a menu strip up at the top. So in essence, in a way, I'm kind of making Notepad here. Okay. Some of you have discovered the Richland text devices, where it makes it possible to have different fonts and color codes and all kinds of things. It's a very cool thing. It's one of the tools that we have. That would be the Richland text box. So you can include that. That's a fun one to play with, but it's not necessary for what we're doing here. So what I want to do here is I want to save my file. And I want to save my file using something new that you've never seen before. I'd like to do it with a dialog box. All the way down at the bottom of your toolbox, you'll see dialogs here. And I'm going to put a save dialog box, attempt to anyway, in my form. It actually draws it down below when you do that. Now I'm going to double click on Save File, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply read what I have in the text box, write that out to file, and in this first step I'm not going to worry about using the dialog box, but in the second step I'll do that. So let's first just make this work by reading what's in the text box and writing that out to file. So if I were to do that, the first thing I'd probably have to do is I'd need to have some sort of a name for the file that I'm about to write out. So I'm just going to call this variable name, and I hope there's nothing special about the word name as string. It's actually going to be a string. And just to test, I'm going to say name starts off as being called, quote, my file dot text. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to declare a file writing device. So we know we just need to declare it just like we do a variable. So first word, what's it going to be if I want to declare this file writing object? It's going to be a destructive file write. Anybody remember the first word if I'm making this declaration? Obviously, what is it? Yeah, it's dim. Since it's a file write, how about if we just call it SW for stream write? What's my next word going to be? As. That's really good. IO dot stream writer. We're putting this together by getting hints from Visual Basic. That's great. Is equal to, what's the next thing I write? It's actually IO is how I lead it off, dot, And I think you're right. It's going to be something like, excuse me, it's going to be IO. I'm creating a file dot, and we will, as you just said, create text. And do you remember what I have to put in the parentheses? What the name is of the object, and I'm going to use the name here. I have it out of order, so it's pretty obvious. I better move this up a line before I declare that object. Is everybody with me? Why I have to do that? I have to know what the name of the file is before I use it. Now you can see my code is okay. As a result of that line, every time I run this program, that file should be created. To make sure it actually is created, I really only need one more line to force it to happen. What's the line that forces it to happen? sw.close makes it happen. So if I have that, I can at least test this much. Let's rebuild our program and run it. I click on that button. I don't think very much has happened, but I did just create that file. It has nothing in it. Let's go to Open, File. I'm going to navigate now into my innermost debug directory. There it is. I open it up, and sure enough, there is nothing there. Just what I expected to see. Now, let's go back to this. Let's add something to that file. There's only one line that's needed to add something to the file. Actually, I suppose I better read the text box first. So I'm going to say dim stuff. This is what I read from the text box as string. Let's read what's in the text box and put it into stuff. What would this line look like? Stuff, what? Equals, what? Text box 1 dot text, right? That's a no-brainer. Now, let's actually write stuff out to file. How do I do that? First word, what did I better write? What object am I using to write this out with? SW. SW is the object. So I'm going to say SW. Now, if I want to get it to do something, what do you suppose I'm going to do next? Period. You see something here that looks like it might write it out? Now there's right and there's right line. Which do I want? Right line. Don't go with right. Right kind of has some unanticipated results when you use it, so make sure you select right line. Now, do I need to put something in the parentheses? Yes, the word stuff. I think our program is kind of halfway complete just for writing something out to file. Let's go ahead and rebuild it just to make sure that it's actually working. I click on this, and I think something was just written out to file. I'll say yes to all. I'm going to go ahead now and go to my text file. Uh-oh. I don't see it. Maybe it's because I ran it and I didn't say yes, update it. Save the file, close it. There's an issue. Oh, here it is. But it didn't update the file. What is the issue? What's that? Oh my goodness, I never typed anything in my text box. So I'll say here is some stuff. Oh, right. Excuse me. I'm getting myself confused. Here is some stuff. I'll save it then, just the way I have it. And I'll run it. Oops. Nope, don't want to run it. I just want to see what's there, and you can see there it is. It did work. If I delete that and then run it again, save it, close the program, you can see it will, it should add that stuff to my file. And if I go to here, there it is. It does look like it's working. I'm getting myself a little bit confused here. Let's now go ahead and use this new tool here that we've created, Save File Dialog, which is really the reason why I had this. To use this, I'm going to call it. So I'm going to say it is name is equal to, the name of that object, if you remember, was save file dialog. It was a terrible name. 1 dot, where am I going to get the file name from? Well, if you type the letter F, you're going to see file name appear right there. So I'm going to get the file name from the Save File dialog box. The next thing I need to do is I just need to write that out to file, and then I just need to close it. I think my program is now complete. All the Save File dialog box does is it allows you to open up your hard drive and see where you want to save that file, and then name it. Let me show you what it does. If I go to debug and I say start without debugging and I click on this, I've made a mistake. There's one more thing I have to do. I need to say save file dialog 1 dot, I forgot to show it first, so I need to say show dialog, which is also just a property I have to have. You click that button, it'll force it to show, and then we'll be able to enter the name, and it should allow us to save the file from there. This should really make our programs look pretty professional. You see what it does? It created that window. Now you can go ahead and select whatever name you want. I'll call this cat.text, and it now created that file. I neglected to write anything here, so I'll just say I don't have a cat. I'll say save it. I will save it as cat again. Now, if I close this file and I go to open and I say file, I should see when I go to my innermost debug directory a file called cat, and I'm not seeing it. So I'm a little disturbed about this. What's wrong here? Oh, I reset the name no matter what as my file. No wonder. Let's rebuild this. This should fix that. I'll say I don't have a cat. I'll say save file. I'm going to call it cat.text. I'll save it. Now, if I close my program and I go to File, I can open that file, and if I go to my innermost debug directory, there it is. It saved my message. A dialog box was just for identifying what I wanted to name the file and where I wanted to put it. Tomorrow we'll deal with an open file dialog box that allows us to open that file automatically, so I don't have to go through this process every time to see what's in it. This concludes the tutorial on Save File dialog boxes.